This is Rob Morse of the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. I'm reminding you that this podcast is one of the many good ones on the Self-Defense Radio Network. Check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Welcome to Unload and Show Clear, the podcast about all things IDPA. And now, here's your host, the slayer of non-threats, Lloyd Bailey.
Welcome to another episode of Unload and Show Clear, where we counter the media's negative image of gun culture by introducing you to the amazing men and women who are involved in IDPA, International Defensive Pistol Association. We're focusing on people, not politics. The everyday people from all walks of life, men and women who volunteer their time and effort, who spend their hard-earned dollars on travel, match fees, and gear to make this sport great. They're your doctors. They clean your teeth. They're fixing your houses, taking care of your pets. They fix your computers and pilot your planes, and they protect our streets and our nation. They are gun culture at its finest, and it's misunderstood or completely unknown to the mainstream media. Today, I'm going to introduce you to another one of these awesome people. But first, I want to thank today's sponsor. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been to a match in the rain? Well, if you say no, let me tell you, you just don't know what you're missing. Aside from the personal discomfort of squishy socks and swampy underwear, there's the fun of shooting at targets that are covered in plastic bags, trying to keep your pasters and the tape dry. If you've never tried to apply tape or pasters to targets underneath plastic baggies, you just don't know what you're missing. But what if I told you that there was a product that would eliminate all that fun and make it easier for you to score and tape targets without all the hassle? Well, my soggy friends, today is your lucky day because Match Shark can help. Match Shark's patent-pending target shields keep your targets dry even in heavy rain. They allow you to run your matches more smoothly because setup and teardown is easy, pasting is easier, scoring is easier, and for the shooter, you can actually see the targets because you're not having to cover them up in plastic bags. Designed and manufactured right here in the United States, owned and operated by shooters with years of experience in setting up and running IDPA matches, let Match Shark help you run your matches fast, smart, and better. Check them out today at matchshark.com. Get everything you need to be prepared for your next rainy day match. Nobody likes shooting in the rain, but with Match Shark target shields, you can make it a better experience for your safety officers and for your shooters. So check them out today at matchshark.com. Our special guest today is Brandon Green from Little Rock, Arkansas. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here, Lloyd.
Well, tell us a little about yourself. Tell us what you do for a living there in Little Rock.
47, live here in Little Rock, been here for about 20 years now. I'm a supply chain manager and have been in supply chain management for about 20 years now, and particularly in manufacturing. I work for Interstate Signways here in Little Rock. We manufacture the signs that you would see going down the interstate, the big green overhead signs, or even what you see at airports from Honolulu to actually Disney. So we're all over.
Okay.
I've actually, while in supply chain management, even worked for Remington Arms here in the area for 11 years, doing the same thing as supply chain management.
Okay. So are you originally from Arkansas? You said you've been in Little Rock for 20 years. Where before that?
I grew up in Star City, Arkansas, southeast Arkansas, small town of about 2,000. And grew up there, and then later moved to the Little Rock area.
To the big city.
To the big city, that's it.
So growing up in small town, southeast Arkansas, I guess probably introduced to guns at an early age, or is that something that was you found later in life?
Oh, yes. I grew up on guns. My family are hunters, and so I remember, having a BB gun as young as I can remember, and then graduating to a pellet gun, a shotgun, and then a deer rifle. So, yes, deer hunting and squirrel hunting were big growing up in southeast Arkansas. So particularly all I shot was, long guns.
Mm-hmm.
And my my dad did a little reloading while I was growing up, but not much with pistols until after moving to the Little Rock area.
What was the introduction to handguns?
Well, my wife and I, Anna, we've been married for 8 years, living here in Little Rock. We got our home broke into early on, and so maybe need to get a little protection. So ended up buying a pistol, and to be frank, I wasn't very good marksman with a pistol starting off. And finally got my concealed carry, and so that was, I would say 2010, and so that was really the first time I'd really done much shooting with a pistol, and that was while I was working at Remington Arms. And growing up, I shot long guns left-handed, even though I'm right-handed. My grandfather taught me early on. He goes, "Why you got your shoulder way over there on the stock?" And I, realized that I couldn't hardly see out of my right eye. So he said, "Put it on the left shoulder." So I've always shot left-handed with long guns, but starting off, couldn't. I tried to shoot pistols right-handed. Finally, a friend told me, he says, "Try it left-handed. You shoot rifles left-handed, try that left-handed." And I finally realized I could shoot a lot better after a couple of weeks of working with it, shooting a pistol left-handed. And then just kind of plinked around for a few years with it, and do a little target practice every now and then, and go to an indoor range. But really didn't get into competitive shooting till one day at a rifle range north of town. Was shooting and was talking to a gentleman about reloading. And he said, "Well, I'll reload 9mm." And I'm thinking, why would you reload 9mm?
Right.
And he started explaining about IDPA and the power factor. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And he goes, I said, "Where are these matches?" And he goes, "Well, there's one every weekend around here in Little Rock." And I'm like, "Really?" So we exchanged numbers, and he gave me some information, and went to, there was one the next weekend at Benton Gun Club, and went there, and he took me under his wing for a couple of local matches. That's how I really got into shooting pistols competitively. And needless to say, it was pretty atrocious, my first match. But, I walked away. I'm like, this is fun. I can see myself getting into this.
So what was the first handgun that you bought for home defense? What was the gun, and then what was the gun that you took with you to that first IDPA match?
So I first purchased a Ruger SR40 for defense. Mm-hmm. And then I later bought an SR9, so a 9mm. So that's what I took. The SR9 is what I took to the first match. So it had a mag disconnect. I had a leather holster, leather mag pouches. It was, and it was. I realize now that trigger probably not the best for competition.
Right. So you brought your carry gear.
Yeah, so I brought my carry gear.
Okay. What are you shooting now? You've gone from, in the last 8 years, you've gone from trying to figure out or picking up a handgun for the first time, then switching from shooting right-handed to left-handed. Then now you're an expert in or a master in everything except bug. So,
well, I'm an expert in bug.
You're an expert in bug now?
I'm a marksman in revolver.
Revolver. I wrote down the wrong division.
That's all right. So that was 2016, February of 2016 when I got introduced to IDPA. And so after that first match, I think I was at a match the following weekend. And next thing you know, by April, I'm shooting USPSA. And by August, I shot my first 3-gun match. So I got the bug real quick. But I realized that I needed to do a little upgrade on as far as a pistol goes. And I went to a local gun shop here, and being that I shoot left-handed, especially for IDPA, a nice size mag release lever would be good compared to what I was using. So they handed me a Walther PPQ Q5 match, and I'm like, okay, this is a better, quite an upgrade from
a little bit of a step up.
Yes. And so he explained, so, what do you, because he asked me, what do you intend to use? And I was like, well, I'm looking at USPSA, IDPA, 3-gun, that kind of thing. And he goes, yeah, this would probably be a good fit for you, with the adapter plate for carry optics or iron sights. And so that's basically what I've been shooting since mid 2016 is the Walther Q5. And now I'm shooting the steel frame version.
So how long after that first match where you showed up with your leather carry gear and the SR9, how long after that before you decided to try your hand at a sanctioned match?
So that was February, my first local, and it was September later that year that I shot the Battle in Benton, which was my first sanctioned match as a novice.
What do you remember about that day?
I've started to get a little bit more comfortable, of course, than the local match, first local matches that I had. So I'd been shooting a fair amount. So, but I realized, boy, I've got a long ways to go to be competitive. Oh man, it was impressive. Some of the good shooters that were there. You see the Wilson team and various shooters that showed up for that. It was like, wow, there's a whole nother gear out there.
Yep. Fun matches.
But it was fun.
I started to say, did it make it easier going to your first sanctioned match at your home club?
Yeah, I think it probably did versus, for me, my first two sanctioned matches were in my backyard, Benton Gun Club and CASA.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel it, and you got local SOs, a lot of people that I knew there. So I believe maybe I had an advantage as far as comfort level goes, shooting local sanctions, starting off.
So how did that day go? How did it turn out for you?
My first, it was me and one other novice. I remember I was one non-threat away. I shot several non-threats, and one less non-threat, and I would have got a bump that day. And I did finally get a bump the next match to marksman.
Well, good for you for not going out and trying to beat the classifier to advance. You decided you worked your way up through sanctioned matches. How did what was
I've worked all my bumps, or all the way up to master, has been from sanctioned class bumps.
What changed for you in terms of, how did you work to improve to get from marksman or novice and getting the bumps at each of those different steps? What was the process to get to improve as a shooter?
Well, first off, the very first match that I shot, I was like 58 points down and 5 non-threats and 2 PEs. Just like, I've got to improve accuracy. So I will say all the way through 2017, after that first year of shooting, was just trying to focus on how to get better at accuracy, because that 2017 is when I think the 1 second penalty came into effect, and so I knew real quick I had to improve accuracy. So that's what I really focused on that first year and got better at that. But then I felt like at the end of 2017 I was kind of stalling as far as improvement goes, and so I reached out in 2018 to get some help. We had a local multi-divisional master, Rowdy Pricko, that lived here and at the time, and he took me under his wing and mentored me, and gave me a lot of good tips for as draw, how to get into a position, and making sure that you're not adding additional movement. And so he really helped me come along. Elias Frangoulis helped me with some match videos and giving me tips. Took a class from Ben Stoger in 2018 as well. So, reaching out to try to get some training really, I thought, propelled me by the end of 2018 coming into this year, and finally really starting to see the fruits of it all this year.
Right. What's something that the novice version of you used to do that you don't do anymore? Something that you've learned and that you changed that made the biggest difference in your game?
Well, I would say my grip. Yeah, it's amazing how, looking back at it, how horrible just the draw and getting my support hand on the pistol. Because what I've found is you've got to have that foundation there to be able to make the good shot, but then also be able to get the sights back onto the target as quickly as possible to get your follow-up shot. So I think my grip is probably the largest thing that has improved over time.
Gotcha. Yeah, we mentioned a moment ago that you're now you're a master in SSP, expert in everything except for revolver, expert including PCC. And I've seen you posting a lot of PCC video, so you're. And then that skill that you developed as a kid shooting the rifle, obviously translating to what you're doing now. Which of those divisions would you say is your favorite? Which, if you had to shoot one of them for the rest of your life and couldn't change, which one would you choose and why?
Well, I would say probably carry optics. I like the skill of the pistol, as far as developing that skill. And with my eyes, I have bifocals now. I can hardly see the front sight with my long distance lens. So the carry optics is just a perfect fit for me. And so if I had to shoot one thing from now on, knowing my eyes will probably get worse, definitely carry optics.
Right. Better have an optic on it, whatever it is.
Right.
Well, talk about, you mentioned switching hands. It's not often you hear somebody saying, why don't you just switch and shoot the other way, right?
I haven't met very many in the same boat, I will say.
What was that like? Did that make it easier for someone who's, shot right-handed all my life and who absolutely struggles shooting left-handed? I can't imagine, what did it take to make that kind of transition so that you could shoot as if you were naturally right-handed?
Well, it just took a lot of working, gun manipulation or dry fire, if you will, because it just felt so awkward picking up a gun left-handed, drawing from a holster left-handed, but the actual just having the gun, pointed at the target and pulling the trigger really didn't seem that awkward to me. So it was just a matter of trying to get the gun into position with the left hand and figuring out where to put my right hand. Now, I will say one of the, maybe that switch, one thing I've struggled and realized through last year and trying to improve is, trying to need to basically grip the gun as strong as you can with your support hand. And I've had my grip strength has been kind of reversed of what it should have been.
Right.
So that's one thing, I guess, with that switch that I've struggled with is trying to make sure that I get the strength or really grip the gun hard with my right hand or my support hand rather than with my trigger. And I remember when taking the course with Ben Stoger, he's like, you think you can grip that gun any stronger with your trigger hand? That's one thing with the switch is getting the strength or how hard I'm gripping it at the right percentage.
Gotcha. What you said you've gotten every one of your bumps has been through a match. Talk about some of those matches and where they came. And do you have any memory or two that stand out from any of those matches, from any of those bumps?
Oh, well, one really comes to mind quickly is last year at the Backstoppers match in Missouri. Mm-hmm. First three stages, I'm shooting, let's see, what was that? I was shooting I think that was SSP sharpshooter at Missouri.
Okay.
And the first three stages was just horrible. And I was like, okay, let's just regroup here. Don't get caught up, that kind of shook the nerves off. Let's just get through this. And, after that, I kind of got going. And then, so we're like three stages left from being completed. And it was a stage in which you were standing beside a pickup truck, and you were facing through the cab of the truck where there's a target just on the other side of the truck. So you're shooting your first target. You're going to shoot through the cab. Of course, the windows are rolled down.
Right.
And then you kind of do a little shutter step and shoot 2 targets over the bed of the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go on and shoot other targets through the house. So when the beep goes off, I draw and fire 2 shots through the cab of the truck, kind of shimmy over to the right, and I start hearing the glass in the door start shattering. I had just grazed the bottom of the window of the truck, so basically the bullet had gone through and hit the window inside the door frame, and the glass is just shattering inside the door frame. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going home. And so of course here comes stop, the word you don't want to hear. So unload, show clear, and he's like, DQ for hitting the truck, and I have to get the match director. Understood. So sitting there, and the match director comes up, and the SO explains to him what had happened, and the match director turns to me and says, well, did you hear shooting the vehicle in the stage briefing is automatic DQ? And I said, oh no, I didn't hear it. And he turns back to the SO, and SO says, well, I've said it almost every squad, but I have to admit I did not explain that to this squad.
Oh my.
So the match director turns back to me and goes, today is your lucky day. you get a reshoot. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. So lo and behold, I ended up getting a bump to expert. I finished second in that match and beat enough to be able to get a bump there. So had it not been for that reshoot, I would have had to wait for another match. So that was one I'll never forget.
The DQ that never happened.
Yeah,
just
right.
Nice.
So kind of hard to top that one.
No, that's that's pretty amazing. The other divisions that you've gotten bumps in, CCP or CDP, you shooting those division or those the equity bumps, or are you actually getting the division bumps in those divisions as well through matches?
So CCP, I shot quite a bit in 2018. It was so hard to get bumps just field size.
Yeah.
So I've got up to expert there. And then I've got, but still would have been there with the equity bump that I received when I got bumped to master at the Arkansas State match this year in SSP.
Right.
And carry optics, I've won, three times this year in expert, but unable to, be able to beat enough people to actually to get the bump. And so, who knows? Maybe at Walking in Memphis I can get there, but it's still a tough crowd there.
Right. It's hard when those newer divisions. It's going to take a couple of years for all that sort of shake out when you get enough shooters to actually start getting bumps, because you're not the first person to talk about how hard it was to advance in CCP, and now you're only this year starting to see enough people signed up at matches where you might actually get a bump.
Exactly. But as I see in other sports, carry optics is really getting some traction, and I've seen it even grow throughout this year in IDPA. So I think it's very doable, especially come next year.
Yeah.
Now, I am shooting Worlds. I am going back to iron sights. So I'll be shooting ESP come Worlds. So we'll see how that goes. I figure I better try to get my bumps to master with iron sights before my eyes go.
Right, exactly. I feel your pain. I have multifocals, and it's getting harder every year. Talk about your experience. You got a match bump at Arkansas State this year. For those who weren't there and didn't experience the horror that was the Arkansas State match this year, talk about that experience.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, and I couldn't believe I got a match bump. It was so pretty that Friday that a lot of people got to shoot. And then Saturday, it was just a monsoon. It rained pretty much. Well, it rained all day to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last 3 stages with the breeze, and now you're soaked all the way through. I mean, it's gone through your cover garment. It's gone through your jersey. It's gone through your shorts. I mean, you're saturated.
Yep.
So then it's it started cooling off a little bit temperature wise, and I'm the last 3 stages. I'm just shivering. It was pretty miserable as far as the weather goes, but for me, I guess it turned out worth it. I'm glad I stuck it out.
There were a few who decided to go home.
Yes. In fact, there was a few in my squad. They're like, "You're from here? I can't imagine why you hadn't gone home. We've already drove 6 or 7 hours, so we're definitely going to cut it out, But I'm glad I did. But that's how this year's been. I call it the year of the monsoon because I think 7 of the first 9 major matches that I've shot this year have been affected by weather in some shape, form, or fashion.
And you've done well in all of them, though.
So maybe I'm a mutter.
He must be.
Yeah, I shouldn't be complaining, should I?
Exactly. No, I was debating whether or not to stick around myself. I was like, I need to stick around and see a few people. And then there was the debate
Illinois
after the match was over and trying to figure out how am I going to get some dry clothes on in the,
You're right. Oh yeah, that would be a problem if you traveled to town and just soaking wet without a spare.
Yep.
And then you also got affected with the at the Illinois match.
I did
with the flooding.
Yep, but I managed to avoid it because I couldn't actually get to the match and experience the rain what everybody else did. I got there and it stopped raining.
But you were affected.
That's true.
It's been quite a year.
It really has.
The weather goes.
At this point in your career, what would you say is your strong point in your game? Is it you've talked about your work on accuracy, or is there something else that you would say this is the strongest part of my game at this point?
Yeah, accuracy is my number one strength as far as IDPA goes, and then I like the stage planning piece of the game, and I think I do a pretty good job with my experience on stage planning. So I think I can at times pick up a few seconds here or there on stage planning, even though maybe outclassed by other shooters in their splits and transition times. So I would say accuracy and stage planning.
Okay. What do you at this point still need the most improvement on?
My physique.
Preaching to the choir, dude.
Yeah, I need to lose a few pounds. It takes a little time to get this train going and a little bit of energy to get it stopped before I get to the position. If I could lose about 25, 30 pounds, that'd be nice. I think that would shave quite a bit of time off my scores. So that definitely needs to be the number one thing to work on.
Gotcha. Fun question. What, besides your gun and holster and mag carriers and all the usual stuff that everybody takes with them to a match, is there something that you take with you to a match that you have to have in your range bag every single time, and why?
Well, 2 things this year. A little umbrella for one. Like I say, with this weather, you've had to have some rain gear of some sort. So I've taken a little miniature umbrella, and then of course here in the South, as humid as it is, I always have to have some Pro Grip to dry out my hands, to make sure that I can get a good grip on the gun.
Unless you're at Arkansas State in the pouring rain, then it doesn't matter. There's nothing you can do.
Pro Grip doesn't help there.
Well, through all of this, and you've progressed really quickly from the guy with the SR9 and the leather holster to expert and master class at this point. What is it about this sport? You talked about how you shot other disciplines as well, but what is it about IDPA that you love? What do you love about IDPA that keeps you coming back?
Well, one, this is what I cut my teeth on for shooting sports, and I just love the competition and good people. No matter where you go, everyone's willing to help. Whether it's how to shoot a stage or equipment. I like the fact that, it's not adversarial environment. It's everybody working together to try to improve each other's game. That's pretty awesome.
It is. All right. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really do appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you at a match. I know I will at some point here down the road. I just hope the weather's good.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, and I've enjoyed the show and look forward to seeing you on the range next time.
All right. I want to thank today's guest for coming on the show and sharing his story. He was very generous with his time, and the interview ran longer than normal. So if you would like to hear the full-length interview, join us on Patreon, and you'll get access to all the extra content. You could hear the rest of the interview, plus full-length interviews from guests like Bob Vogel and Julie Golub. Sign up for just $1 a month to support the show, and you get access to all the special episodes at unloadpodcast.com/extra. Thank you again for listening. Tune in again next time for another episode of Unload and Show Clear.